All right. This is Rocky DeStefano and Phil.
Your boy Phil Anthony.
Yeah, Phil's my best friend lately. I've been seeing him way too much.
A lot.
And we are going to be covering everything that happened last week in fantasy football and maybe a few things that you should be looking forward to this week.
Yeah, so we'll start it up right away. Talk about this Giants-Bengals matchup, which I'm pretty intimate with. And, man, it was kind of what you expected. Jones looked really good before he got hurt, and I think this score would have been different and maybe you had a little bit more production from some of these guys on the Giants offense. But, Gallman had another solid day.
I mean, when you say looked good,
no,
what do you mean by that? When you say
he was like
good?
18 for 21.
It's against the Bengals. So
he was 3 for 4. Well, they are an NFL team. Do you want him to look bad against them?
I think everybody's looked good against the Bengals.
I don't think everybody's looked good, but that's beside the point.
So, what else did you notice? Gallman, I think, as you said, he's in probably really in every week start unless you've got a stud on your roster.
Yeah. I would say Evan Ingram is starting to get more involved, getting the ball downfield, and I feel like he's a guy you can start to plug into your lineup every week now as a tight end. We've always known he's had the talent, but 6 receptions, 130 yards.
Yeah, where he's been helping too is
9 targets too, and he's looked better in the run block game.
Yeah, well, and I think that was the concern, and I also feel like he always had the talent, but where he's really been helping you is he's starting to mix in scoring.
Yeah, and I just feel like I've noticed there's somebody that watches them every week. They're just getting him down the field a bit more. So
yeah,
there's been more opportunities for big plays with him, and he's just somebody mentioned this. He does remind me of Hakeem Nicks when Hakeem Nicks was at the top of his game, same body type, same type of speed.
Yeah,
he's basically a receiver. He's still a little unsure-handed, but he's been better lately.
Yeah, and then on the other side, Allen looked okay, but not good enough to be a start unless you're desperate. Giovanni Bernard was average at best. He did get 2 receptions off 3 targets. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that I would be start. I actually did
start him. I seen that for 3 points.
And he
after we said not to start him.
Yeah, because I made some trades getting ready in our dynasty league for next year, so I traded a bunch of people, had a couple injuries, and I was down to Bernard, and I had Jonathan Taylor starting, but then he got knocked out with COVID, and that was it. So he was who I had. T. Higgins. 5 receptions off of all. He had 5 targets.
Yeah, and he scored a touchdown.
Boyd had more targets, 6, but only had 3 receptions, and they were really. It's going to be a rough road.
It's going to be watching the game, just the eye test. Yeah, it's pretty. I wouldn't be excited about starting if you could trade out of T. Higgins. I would do it if you're not in a dime. If it's a redraft, if you get somebody to take him off your hands, I'd probably do that. And I'll just Sterling Shepard It's a Sterling Shepard day. 7 receptions, 64 yards.
Yeah, he has. I think he's averaged 6 receptions almost every week. This week he got 1 more. He's a steady wide receiver 3 if you need him.
Yeah, you can feel confident if he's healthy. He's gonna. And the thing about him, he's so 8 targets, 7 catches. He catches.
Yeah.
Mostly, I think I heard a stat. He's his catch rate is about 82%, which is
one of the highest.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Let's go to the Texans versus the Lions. They were the Thanksgiving game, and honestly, it was an exciting, fun game to watch. You knew who was going to win almost from the get-go.
Yeah,
but it was still exciting. It ended up with a head coach firing here, and many of his players rejoiced openly on Twitter. In fact, it was kind of shocking to see some of those players really openly saying that.
Yeah, did you hear about the Lions fans that apparently they donated to
a lot of money to Deshaun
Watson's charity, yeah,
thanking him for ending the abuse. But, this brings up a good point. Deshaun Watson, number one quarterback last week in most leagues. Incredible game. Looked unstoppable. And he is. If you go back to since Bill O'Brien has been fired.
Yeah, he's been a lot
on
better.
Fire. So maybe with Patricia going, it will ignite some of the Lions' potential because I think they've got a roster, at least offensively, that looks pretty good. But they haven't been performing week in and week out. We did call out and tell you to start Adrian Peterson if Swift didn't go.
Yeah.
And he performed 2 touchdowns, 55 yards, mixed in. Actually didn't have any receptions. But if you started him, he did pretty well for you. We also encourage you to start TJ Hawkinson. And he had a great game for a tight end, 5 receptions, 89 yards on 8 targets.
Yep.
He is becoming the main, I don't know about the main, but the steadying force in that offense.
Yeah, and we've kind of been waiting for that to happen since he's been drafted. Jones had another solid game. He's almost what you want him to be with Sterling Shepard is that we were just talking about. And he had that type of game, but his issue is just it's not every week. But 6 receptions for 48 yards.
Yeah, but he had on 12 targets.
So.
Which is insane. He is dependent on Galladay being out though. But to me,
that's true.
Like when Galladay's back in, it's really a Galladay TJ show. So, Kerryon Johnson showed some life. Almost as many carries as Adrian, and actually a higher yards per attempt. Kerryon is a guy that I feel like had he gone anywhere else would be a viable starting running back in the league. But for whatever reason, they don't give him enough volume, and then they drafted Swift.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
So,
but it's the Detroit Lions, so
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
They fired the coach, so maybe this team. I mean, they were in this game.
Yeah, they were. And they're getting healthy. So hopefully Galladay comes back. Swift comes back. Swift was in the concussion protocol, right? Yeah. So he should be back.
He should, because he had a chance to play this week. So, I mean, that game. So I would imagine he'll be back for next Sunday.
And then Galladay, I think, has a shot to come back too. So.
And we can't end this without talking about, Fuller had a great game, and Cooks had a solid game too. He wasn't a slouch. But Fuller is now going to be suspended for 6 games.
And they're not really saying why or what he was taking.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
He's on the roids probably.
Yeah,
I'm guessing, but that opens up a lot for Brandon Cooks as the number 1 wideout, and I think you might have to take a look at Kiki Kuti.
It's hard to say that name with a straight face. He had 3 targets, 2 receptions. Didn't look great.
No.
But Will Fuller had 171 yards, and somebody's going to get those receptions.
Yeah. I look at Cooks as a guy you might want to try to pounce on and make a trade for, if possible. If you're trying to, I had a guy hitting me up over the weekend. He wants to trade Stephon Diggs. He's in a standard scoring league. So maybe Cooks is a guy you could target before they see him on the field without Fuller. And his value jumps up.
We mentioned that we liked Cooks and Fuller, but we did say Cooks we thought would do better.
Well, you said I didn't say that. You said that.
But that is fair.
I just want to attribute that to you.
He caught all of his receptions, all of his targets, 5. He had 85 yards. Had he gotten one of the scores, and he almost did.
Yeah.
It would have been a different game. We would have been, 50-50 on him and Fuller, but it doesn't matter. Fuller's gone, and so Cooks, like you said, it becomes, maybe a time to feast for him.
Maybe, and then it might affect your boy a little bit there, Mr. Deshaun Watson.
Maybe it may, but I don't think so. I think, to be honest with you, I think Fuller is a replaceable receiver. He's a great receiver, but they've got some talent on their team. He's more of the field stretcher, which I think Kiki can kind of fill that role. And I honestly like Duke Johnson didn't do much in the running department. He had a decent average, but where he helped you was on 4 targets, got 3 receptions, 40 yards and a touchdown. And so those two combined, he actually had a decent week. And I think he's going to be a person who gets a lot of the passes that Fuller won't get.
Yeah. I still lean Cooks as far as the production in that offense, but yeah.
I think they'll all be elevated, but I think Cooks or Johnson might end up with 1 or 2 more receptions, and that could be a game changer for him.
All right.
Let's go to the next one.
So we're going to football team at Dallas.
The Washington football team at Dallas. It's another enjoyable game.
Yeah, this was fun to watch for me because I was definitely rooting against Dallas.
Yeah. I think Alex Smith has looked okay, and that's it. You know, he's kind of come back down to earth.
Yeah.
But he didn't need to look that good this game, to be honest with you. So, So I don't know if they weren't throwing because they didn't need to, because Gibson was just destroying it on the ground.
Man, and we pounded the table for Gibson, and we're going to pat ourselves on the back for that one because he looks like a league winner right now.
So last 5 games, he is the number 1 running back in points, including Derrick Henry, which we'll get to later. But, Gibson's an every week start. What I loved about Gibson is off of 7 targets, 5 receptions, 21 yards, and there were a few of those that he was picking them off the ground. Like, they were not good throws. He was showing his ability to catch passes. I like the fact that he came in the league really more as a receiver than a running back.
Yeah.
I think he could be a dual threat guy for the next few years.
Well, it looks like he is. I mean, let's not forget Peyton Barber sighting. I don't know if it means anything, but
look good.
He did. McKissick had only 1 carry. Peyton Barber got 11 carries, 5.2 yard average. So maybe a guy you stash if you need to start in a flex or something like that.
Well, or as a handcuffed. But again, we talked about this last week. Dallas was the same defense that made Dearness Johnson from the Browns look like a starting running back. I think honestly they're the weakest against the run in the league. I know they're not dead last, but I feel like they just look like they're not able to stop the run.
And Terry McLaurin, nothing new.
Another
9
Terry
targets.
Gaines. Yep.
And this he's a stud.
Yep. Ohio State, Ohio State University.
Speaking of Ohio State, let's talk about Zeke. And we talked about liking him for the rest of the year.
No, you talked about liking him.
I liked him for the I did like him going for the rest of the year. I did not like him in this game though.
I think we said that the yardage he would get this game would be very hard fought, and we were right. 3.2 yard average.
I mean, he scored 3 points in my league.
Yeah.
And they lost 2 more offensive linemen in this game, so
they're just decimated.
Yeah. I think they're ready to pack it in too.
I think you put them on the shelf. I think the reason why they haven't packed it in right now is that the NFC least is so pathetic.
Yeah.
That they're still in second place at 3-8.
Yeah, that's true. But I think losing their two more, Zach Martin's out, their best player, besides Dak.
Cooper looked pretty good though, and really Gallup had as many targets
and
8
catches. Yeah,
he just didn't turn them into yardage. We did mention Logan Thomas as a tight end sleeper. And he had a decent game.
Yeah.
Not a great one, but for a tight end, if you score a touchdown and get 4 receptions, it's a good day.
It's a good game.
Yeah, I should
have took that coffee.
Yeah, I know. We should have got Phil some coffee.
All right, anything else you want to mention here? No. Just
no.
If you got a team playing against the Cowboys, plug them up.
The only thing I want to mention is I kind of like the Washington football team. I hope they don't change it. I just leave it like that.
No, I don't like that.
Nondescript.
No.
Yeah.
You need a name. I like the Washington Warriors. I like the Red Tails is the one I think I liked.
It's racist. That's right. Okay. Let's go to the Browns versus Jacksonville Jaguars. I rubbed the elf, and the elf brought me the luck. They did win a game. I did, in my pick section, I did pick the Jags with the points, and that proved to be true. I didn't think it would be this close, but what worried me is they were without Taki, which is their best, one of their best lineman coverage people. They were without Garrett and Denzel Ward, and then the first play of the game, Ronnie Harrison went out. That changed the makeup of their defense, and they were pretty rough before against the pass, and that happened. It just looked bad, so it was closer than it should have been. They had some inopportune issues. They had a fumble off a reception by Desmond Bryant that was down in Cleveland's part of the field, which led to a score from Jacksonville. So this is the Browns this year. They're going to play every game tight, and I think the Jags have played most games tight, except for against the game against the Steelers.
How do you feel about Landry's performance? You think it's a flash in the pan, or maybe a sign of things to come?
Landry is. He had broken ribs for the majority of the year. I think week 3 he got hurt. He re-injured it in the next game. I think he's starting to heal. I think that the Browns are starting to realize, okay, we do not have OBJ. So they're starting to structure the offense even more around what they've got. Cotterell Hodge coming back has helped Landry because he's good enough to stretch the field some, which has given Landry a lot of underneaths. And then, as I said, Kevin Stefanski has really used movement and bubble screens to get the ball into the hands of Chubb, Hunt, and Landry. So I think Landry will have an elevated performance the rest of the season. I don't know that he'll get 11 targets every game, but I think he's probably good for 8.
But yeah, it was encouraging to see him
look good, man.
Finally look like himself.
He's got one of the better catch ratios. You mentioned Sterling, I think, was the other one. He's similar. He doesn't normally drop much.
And Nick Chubb was Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb's Chubb. Robinson was Robinson, and Robinson looks like he's getting better and better every week. He's just
it's about the only thing they have to cling to.
Though
Jacksonville.
They did
Mike
okay,
Glennon,
though.
Man.
Yeah, Mike Glennon looked like the Glennon
that
signed the big contract. Yeah. And he got a big contract because they saw something there.
Yeah.
That being said, it was against the Browns secondary that's been decimated, so let's not read into it too much. He looked good.
Well, 6.7 yard average, so
yeah, it's pretty sad, But Mayfield had one of his better games.
I can't figure him out. I think I got him figured out, but
I think he's in his head, man. I think it's in his head. He rifles the ball to receivers he doesn't need to rifle the ball to, tends to go a little bit high.
Overcompensator.
I think he doesn't want to get the interception, So, but going forward, Chubb's an every week start. Robinson's an every week start.
This kid, Colin Johnson, had the rookie.
Yeah, good game. The Jaguars have some hope. Robinson, LaVisca, and Johnson were all drafted this year, and they seem like they've all got pretty, some talent there.
Yeah. So you're going to...
Let's go to the next game.
Chargers at Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised. My boy, Air Bear, man. He lost me a few games this weekend.
Yeah, but I don't think it was him.
It might not have been, but those numbers...
Yeah.
They just weren't there.
He needed one more touchdown, and if he had one more touchdown, he would have finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
And there was a couple possibilities that didn't work out for him.
And you see they threw the ball so much in this game.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this game to talk about.
Yeah.
It's just football-wise. Buffalo is that defense is starting to look like the defense from last year.
Yeah, they're getting better, but conversely, Allen is starting to look not quite as crisp as he has in the past. And he's got the toughest stretch going forward for quarterbacks going into your playoffs. In fact, I think for most of your championships, he'll be against the Steelers. And I don't see starting anybody against the Steelers D.
That's a fair point, but Austin Eckler, the long-awaited return.
Looked great. 16 targets. 11 receptions, 85 yards, and he ran just okay. But still, he got 44 yards.
Yeah, the average wasn't great, but he looked great.
Well, that's good.
Career high touches for him.
Yeah.
So he's a full go.
Yep.
If you held on to him, if you traded for him, I'm so happy. I didn't start him this week just because I wanted to see what it looked like. But going into the playoffs to get him back.
Well, you get him back and McCaffrey. So.
Well, it helps. Well, 2 different leagues, but yeah, it helps because I think I just lost Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
And it looks like he probably will miss this week because I think the press game conference, Gruden seemed to be a little concerned about it.
Well, let's stay in this game. Let's not jump ahead.
Sorry.
You're getting excited here. Devin Singletary looked good. And really, so did Zach Moss. Both had pretty good averages. Zach Moss had more receptions. So just, to me, you can't start either because you don't know which one's going to hit that week.
Who, Moss and Singletary? Yeah. They're tough to...
Hunter Henry, though, 7 receptions, almost 70 yards, 10 targets. He's becoming a good tight end start.
That seems to be the theme this week. We mentioned Ingram.
Well, and then Tanyan had a good one too.
Tanyan had a tough game. Yeah,
Logan Thomas had a decent game. We didn't mention Austin Hooper, but he had a score and really almost had another score if the ball hadn't been high.
It's nice. It's a nice change at that position. It's been pretty barren for the last few years.
Keenan Allen, only 4 for 40. He did get a touchdown, but I wouldn't worry about him. He got 10 targets. Yeah. He's the guy to start.
Yeah, I think they were just off today.
Yeah, they were off, and I think Air Bear, our favorite mispronunciation, finished just outside the top 10. He had the yards. He threw a ton. He just didn't convert another touchdown.
Threw a lot.
I wouldn't worry about him going forward. I think he's a start most weeks.
Yeah, but Austin Eckler, 16 targets.
Jesus. Yeah, that's crazy. Let's go. Since you wanted to talk about Jacobs, let's go to the Raiders Falcons. What a dud by the Raiders. Who are the Raiders?
Well, I still think they're a good team. I watched a lot of that game, and it seems like just one of those freak. What I noticed, there was they seemed to get a lot of penalties. I think in the first half they had like 11.
Yeah.
But the penalties came at times that were really crucial, like just drive stoppers and calling back big plays, stuff like that. And it seemed to really turn the game around. And then I think once the ball got rolling, they just
the Ryans look good.
Got away from them.
The Falcons look good.
Ever since they fired their coach, they look a lot better.
Gurley was a late game scratch, no information.
Yeah, that was weird.
So pay attention because something could be brewing. It could just be that they're conceding that going forward he's not going to be the running back, and they're trying to see how good Ito Smith and Brian Hill can be.
Yeah.
They had an even, really 12 and 13 carries. Both looked really good. Ito Smith scored. As far as receptions, Ito led there too. He got 5 targets and 4 receptions. So I think they're just kind of trying out maybe what's going to be going forward.
Yeah, and Calvin Ridley, got you where you needed to be. But I'm more interested in if Julio's playing, who's going to be that second guy. And this game it was Gage, but it wasn't really anything spectacular. 5 targets.
Gage. It was really Hurst, more than him. He had 8 targets.
Yeah.
So
and what do you get? 4 for 48. Yeah.
Yeah. Hunter Renfrow had another good game, solid game. Didn't score, but they didn't score. So
he had a nice game.
Josh Jacobs, like you mentioned, he got hurt and it looked bad. Ankle looked bad.
Yeah.
And they didn't really say going forward what it would be. It honestly, when I saw the play, I thought it was worse than just an ankle sprain, but they didn't seem to say it was worse.
No, they said it was an ankle. I probably should have followed up on it, but injury report, we'll see. Wednesday is going to be indicated, but I don't expect
they're
him
saying
to play
he
this
could
week.
play.
No.
Yeah, they said he could play.
Oh, my God.
So we'll see. But, pay attention. Derek Carr, he cost a lot of people a game this week.
Yeah, man.
He just did. No touchdowns, 1
Fumbles.
interception. Yeah, fumbles. Just didn't look good at all. Man, I tell you what, there's a thin line between the great quarterbacks and the good quarterbacks. and I think Carr is firmly in the good quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, I just wonder, who do they play next week? Do you have the sheet or no?
Let me see. I had this up.
I'm just trying to think, is this, traveling from Vegas to Atlanta? They had a pretty big game the week before.
Yeah, they play the Jets, so they should have some redemption.
So they'll bounce back, but just trying to think, maybe it was that game against Kansas City maybe just took a little bit too much for them than to go cross country and play on the road.
Well, and I think when you lose that way,
team that's playing well at home, but I did a lot of mistakes there. It was a little fluky. Not to take anything away from Atlanta, they played well, but
all right, let's go. Tennessee Titans versus the Colts. Officially, I am wrong, but I do want to say in my league, I turned Derrick Henry into a young running back and 2 number 1 picks. Yeah. So,
it's got to be in the context of so we didn't do a great job of communicating
explaining
that.
It, yeah.
Is that it's a dynasty league with contracts and picks are valuable, stuff like that. But that being said, your reasoning for wanting to trade him
was okay.
But it has been proven wrong.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, he looked amazing, and he has an easy stretch going forward.
He's got
for your playoffs.
Got him through the tough part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, wow. I think I heard a stat yesterday where weeks 11 on with Derrick Henry, I think his average per carry goes up like 1.7 yards, and he has 25. I might be off a number. I think it's 25 touchdowns in 22 games.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing running backs. First of all, we've had Taylor, McCaffrey, Gurley, Eckler, Mostert, Jacobs, Connor, Dobbins, Swift, Lindsey. All of these, Mixon, they're all out or hurt or have been hurt for parts of the season. Right now, we have a top 4, and if I were to rank the top 4 that we know are healthy, it's Henry, Gibson, Robinson, and Chubb. Those are the 4 that I would say every week start. Derrick Henry is just a man. Let's just say what it is.
A.J. Brown, I wasn't too high on him. This last time we played the Colts, he went 1 for 21, and this game, I mean, he had a huge play. He had 6 targets, 4 catches. So without that play on those other catches, I think he only had 3 for 27. No,
right. Yeah,
29.
What
3 for 29?
What has helped him? He doesn't have a lot of receptions. Doesn't even really have a lot of yards. He has 8 touchdowns. So he's been saved this year by touchdowns. But I don't know who else you start. Corey Davis has looked pretty good.
Yeah.
He didn't look great this week, but he has looked pretty good for the season.
Yeah, he's definitely gone up a tick for sure. Had a little T.Y. Hilton throwback today. I mean, this week, and he looked like himself for a little bit. He did have a pretty big fumble. And Nyheim Hines, we did say if you wanted to start a running back this week for them, we did kind of side with JT.
And then JT was a late game scratch. It's just
being a late
me.
Game scratch. Nyheim Hines did pretty well.
My issue with
I like how he looks running the ball though too. He's explosive.
Yeah. There's not a lot of fault you can find. I don't know. He only had a 2.9 yard average though. I do think Jonathan Taylor is a better runner. I think Hines is a better receiver, and he proved that. 10 targets, 8 receptions. I hate this whole COVID scratch situation. Like, Taylor was scratched because he was close to somebody who tested positive, not even himself. So he'll probably start this week. I felt bad for him because I felt like this was a game where it was kind of a prove-it game. If he came in, had another good game, he could back it up, some of what people some of the rank that people drafted him.
And what about the quarterbacks here? Not
Tannehill.
Tannehill's just up and down though, man. There's games where he just looks great.
Yeah, but what's his ceiling? 300 yards maybe and a touchdown or 2. He's not going to be that guy. if he finishes number 1 or in the top 5, you're going to be shocked. He's just an average, and I'm not saying he's average. I'm saying in this offense, how they use him is average. Because if you say, oh, my God, Tennessee beat the Colts 45-26, I'm thinking he got at least 2 touchdowns, maybe had a run. He didn't have any. I mean, he had a pretty bad game from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, he did. Rivers outperformed him from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, and Rivers, I mean, no matter what we want to say bad about him, he has consistently looked pretty good,
Yeah. So let's go Arizona at New England. And we talked about this too, I think, right?
Yeah.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Kyler Murray, we warned you guys. I warned you guys that the Patriots were one of the best defenses at figuring out running quarterbacks, and it proved to be true. Murray had 31 yards. He didn't do terrible, but he didn't do Murray. He was not Murray in this game. He just looked bad.
And I'll tell you what, it's affecting Hopkins.
Yeah.
And Hopkins hasn't looked great. And, I got to recant a little bit on Kenyon Drake. I said I don't think he's a great football player, but, I mean, this guy, he's getting the volume, but he's producing. I mean, the average wasn't great, but he's getting 22 carries. He's getting the goal line work.
Yep. For the season, 719 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4.3 yard average.
And he missed some time.
He missed at least, I'm thinking at least 3 games.
Yeah, so you can't argue with the numbers. So my apologies, Mr. Drake.
Yeah.
Please don't take it personal.
Damian Harris had a tougher game this week. And as we feared, James White became that receiving back and had 2 touchdowns. So
Cam Newton did nothing for you. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. But they're just trying to.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know. I mean, he never, in my opinion, he was never a great quarterback. He was a great athlete.
He had a few years there where he was throwing the ball all around. But, yeah, I mean, it hasn't been that way in a while. And I'm a Cam Newton fan. I was pulling for him, but just hopefully they get into the playoffs and he can play well and, maybe he'll actually go to the Bears next year or something like that.
I think he should maybe, worry less about accessorizing and study.
I think he has a stylist for that. I don't think he worries about it.
All right. Carolina versus Minnesota. Close game. 27-28. Kirk Cousins. It's time we start talking about Kirk Cousins. He's had some really solid games recently.
Yeah.
For the season, he's looked, up and down, but the last couple weeks, he's really been a top fantasy producer. So it is what it is. And I know you have to kind of swallow back some vomit when you're talking about him, but he had a good game.
He did, and so did Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
He is
rookie.
13 targets, 2 touchdowns, 7 and 7.
Yeah, he's the future. They're going to have a pretty good receiving core between him and Thielen going forward.
BB, we talked about.
Yeah.
7 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, even
BC Johnson.
Yeah, BC Johnson. Kyle Rudolph had a surprise game.
Yeah, 7 catches for Kyle Rudolph. That's pretty incredible.
Cook didn't have any touchdowns, but he had a solid game, ran for 60 and caught 4 for 21. So it wasn't a Delvin game, but it was a solid game. Yeah. Mike Davis, about the same.
Yeah, what we expect from Mike Davis. I just can't wait for them to get this bye week out of the way.
Yeah.
Get CMC back and Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
The top of the totem pole this week for them.
Yeah.
4 catches, 94 yards, and a TD on 7 targets.
Yeah.
Now, Moore had more targets this week, but like I said, I think Robbie Anderson is more.
Did you see that reception
efficient.
Or the injury on DJ Moore?
No.
Okay, this is, I'm going to tell you, pay attention if you're a DJ Moore owner. There's more to it. They're saying it's an ankle.
I like the pun.
It looked like an Achilles injury. And you know what pisses me off is It was a bad throw by Bridgewater. He maneuvered to try to catch it, and, man, he landed wrong. And I know they're saying ankle. I'm afraid it's more. And the issue as a fantasy team is this is their bye week, so you're probably not going to get a lot of information.
Yeah.
And then you could find out that you're missing your receiver that you were counting on for the playoffs. If you have DJ Moore, do your research, try to figure out what's going on, and maybe try to pick up some backups here.
Come up with a backup plan for him.
And I think the person who would probably inherit is Curtis Samuel. I think Samuel would be the guy that would get even more production than he's been getting.
I think for both of these guys, it'd just be a nice balloon up for their production because, I mean, they're for what it's worth. For most of the year, Carolina has thrown the ball quite a bit,
and they've looked better than what I think anybody thought they would.
Yeah, so there's volume there, and they're typically going to be in close games, trailing, and they're going to throw the ball. So yeah, one of those guys would be good to have on your team for sure going into the playoffs. Okay, anybody else here? No,
not really. No. Let's go to the Dolphins, Jets, and we're going to start.
Oh man,
moving a little bit quicker. Tua was an interesting. They said he had an ankle injury. I think he had an underwhelming injury, and they started Ryan Magic. He had a decent game for you, 2 touchdowns, 257 yards. Running back is a mess in Miami, and I think it will be until Gaskins comes back. That's my guess.
Yeah. But Breida looked, I mean, he didn't have a great day, but he's 4.5 yard average.
No, he's not.
He looked good.
Yeah, and he caught a couple balls, but, they pulled DeAndre Washington. I just don't know who. I don't know who to start. Hey, man, Frank Gore, though. Frank Gore.
Frank the Tank.
Yeah, the indomitable. He never ages. Man, he had a decent game, 4.1 yards, 74 yards, and 3 catches. Solid fantasy game for somebody who you didn't think was going to do that.
Close your eyes and pick him up if you need it back. But
yeah,
Frank Gore. Devontae Parker had a big game.
You called that?
14 targets. Yeah, if Fitzpatrick's in the game, and Parker's to me like a top 12 wide receiver, talent wise. But if Fitzpatrick's in the game and he's getting all these targets, even I don't expect 14 targets a week, but I would expect him to get 8 to 10 targets a week, and I think he can make. He could get you home with that type of volume.
Yeah.
And he didn't score a touchdown this week. So, I like him quite a bit. And Gesicki had a decent game.
Yeah. I mean, anytime your tight end scores, it's a decent game.
And let's just, let's bury the Jets.
Yeah, but one person I don't want to bury, and I've been talking him up, and I know you're not as sure about him.
Rashad Perryman.
Yeah, 8 targets. He almost came down with one that would have been a touchdown. He had 4 receptions, 80 yards. He stretches the field to 19-yard average. If you're in a deep league and you need a receiver to pick up, put him on your bench in case.
And Mims had almost identical numbers to him.
Yeah, Mims is a good, up and coming for sure.
I find it hard, especially going to these matchups for the playoffs and stuff like that, to put one of these guys in my lineup and feel confident.
Yeah, but, it's kind of like me with Giovanni Bernard. I wasn't confident. I didn't have a choice. Like, I just had to have a third. And this is an unprecedented year for injuries. COVID makes it so much worse. You look at, like, Brandon Ayuk, who's been out with COVID now for several weeks.
Yeah.
It's just Andrews. It's crazy to me, the number of people being affected by injuries.
That is true. I just don't like starting it. I have Crowder on my team. I've started him a handful of times this year, but I haven't felt good about it, and it hasn't worked out.
Yeah. So let's go to you want to do San Fran first, or you want to do Saints and Broncos?
Let's do Saints Broncos. There's not too much to talk about there. So
I want to talk about something. Someday, 20, 30 years from now, Kendall Hilton gathering his grandkids around fire Thanksgiving.
Did you hear?
And he will revel them with stories of his greatness in the NFL. My God, I felt bad for that kid. And you know what the thing is? Did you watch any of that game?
I watched bits and pieces on Red Zone. Yeah,
he looked like, honestly, looked like he's tiny. Like he looked like the smallest quarterback I've ever seen. And they have him listed as 6 foot.
Oh no, he's not.
There's
6
no
foot,
way. I could fit him in my pocket, I think. But man, 9 attempts, 1 completion. It was bad. They honestly should have direct snapped to Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman and Melvin Gordon and let them call it a day.
But
it's awful.
I don't know if you heard about this, but the Broncos actually wanted to
start their
coach who played at UCF.
Yeah.
Which I don't, that's the thing I hate about the NFL.
Said. You know what the league's reasoning was?
Yeah, they don't want people to stash players. I mean, come on.
So Hinton is a wide receiver. If you research him, he's got a pretty good story, unique story about how he got to where he is. You want to root for him, but he had no grasp of the offense, none. Oh. Meanwhile, they got a coach who would have been bad also, by the way, but who would have at least known the offense. He could have run the offense better.
And at least he played.
But it doesn't matter. The game, it didn't matter. No matter who started, they would have lost.
No, for sure, yeah.
But this looked bad. And Taysom Hill, I don't know what to make of this dude. You got to start him. You have to because he's going to run in scores. 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks by running. Didn't look great as a passer, but didn't need to.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you make of Murray, Kamara, this whole situation?
So on Taysom, I mean, we're just looking at, I think, a faster Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
And
he's got a little prettier throw.
Yeah, but I mean, just the efficiency. Here's what he has going for him. He has Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Who's going to scheme some things up for him. You seen him throw the ball around last week, but there wasn't any anticipation throws. There wasn't, it was stuff that was schemed up. You get guys open, and he was hitting open guys. So I like that he could do that, and he's a bit more accurate than Tebow. But he's a runner. That's what he is. He's a back. They direct snap into a back that they could throw the ball with.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's kind of like a wildcat quarterback more than anything else.
Yeah, and he's been productive on the ground. So I mean, you can't shun that. Now, if you go up against a team that maybe you feel like they could defend the run a little bit better, maybe it gives you a little pause in starting him. But that's it. And Kamara, I think it's time to start worrying a little bit with Alvin Kamara.
You got to honestly, I'm going to downgrade Kamara and Thomas. Thomas only got 6 targets because they only threw the ball 16 times. Yeah. And he looked good in his receptions, but this is a different offense.
Yeah, I think you could take Thomas. Yeah, I don't even think that's a question.
The beneficiary of this seems to be Murray.
Murray, I actually played him a few daily leagues this week, and he helped me win some money.
I think he is a decent running back who fits the scheme they're running with Taysom.
Yeah, they're going to run the ball more, and he's more of a 19 carry guy than Alvin Kamara is.
Well, and he's somebody who he gets better as the game goes on because he punishes people. He's a little bit bigger back.
Bigger guy.
He runs reckless. He's like a Nick
contact,
Chubb. Yeah. Chubb, if you look at his stats, he's had many first halves that are okay. He gets better and better and better as he keeps slamming into people. Same thing with Murray. So,
and do we want to talk about any? We can't even talk about the Broncos. I mean,
no, there's nothing to talk about.
There's really nothing to talk about at all.
Just a big sad mess. So
let's go.
49ers and Rams.
49ers and Rams.
49ers pull this out. Rams are a good team. I think it kind of showed you that if they were a little bit healthier, the 49ers would have been pretty good. They got some of their players back. Raheem looked okay. Looked like he was knocking the rust off, but he got a touchdown.
Yeah.
Little bit troubling for me with him is he played a lot in the first half and not a lot in the second.
Okay.
So I feel like he may either have tweaked something or he wasn't, up to the reps.
Maybe they might have been trying to limit him a bit, I guess.
Yeah, because he
won't know until
he was trending to have about 80 to 100 yards, had scored already, and then they just disappeared. They put in a lot more of Jeff Wilson and Jerick McKinnon. So
and Debo came back, and he's a stud, man.
Look good, man. He looked good.
But he's the guy.
Yeah.
13 targets. He doubled up anybody else. I mean,
he
had more targets than the next three guys combined.
I think that'll come down some if Ayuk comes back because they like Ayuk.
Yeah,
and he looks pretty good too. I think
there's enough.
I think, you talk about a team, if they had Mostert healthy with their backup running backs, if they had Samuel and Ayuk.
And their quarterback.
I mean, they are a decent team.
No, they're a good team. They're a Super Bowl team. I mean, they definitely would be in contention to win this division, I think.
Yeah.
I think the real fraud in that division has been Arizona.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention when we were talking about that game. I think they're basically just that Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Away from being on a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, and I think, I think their defense is just not strong enough. Okay, the Browns are 8-3.
Yeah,
the Browns are the fourth best team in the AFC by record. They're not the fourth best team. They play a great team. They're losing because their defense isn't good enough to keep them in a game. And if they have to have a game where it's going to be throwing the ball like crazy, they're not going to win. I feel the same. I mean, Murray is more intriguing. I think their offense is stronger than the Browns, but their defense, I think, in some ways is worse than the Browns. They don't take the ball away as much.
Well, they're really good when they play teams in the AFC West. Yeah, that's for sure.
That's fair.
I think they could shoot out with a team. I think when they go up against a tough defense, they've had a little bit more trouble. I think when a team that knows how to limit Kyler's running and he has to pass his way to a victory, I think it's a little bit more difficult. And it's probably, part of him developing and maybe a little bit to do with his height. But there's definitely a chink in the armor with them.
Jared Goff, a week after looking like a world beater against the Bucs, cost them the game. I think in some ways 2 interceptions looked rough. Cam Akers, every time they run this guy at all, like when they really put him in the offense, he looks great. Coming out of FSU, he was supposedly the second best running back coming out of college after Edwards. He looked good. 9.3 yard average, a touchdown, 84-yard run. He had one long run, 61 yards. I can't figure this out, why they don't use him more. So maybe
Sean McVay, man, he's just a mad scientist.
Yeah, well, cost.
These guys like to Shanahan. They don't like to commit to one back. So,
on the L.A. Rams receiving, it would be Woods looks like the winner. 12 targets compared to 5 for Cooper Kupp. I think Woods is more of the consistent, and then Kupp's going to have some really, really strong games, and then some games.
I think Woods probably, like you said, whether Goff is having a game like he had this weekend, he's probably the guy that's going to have more of a floor than Kupp.
Yeah, they're always looking for him.
But, if you get good Goff, like last week, both these guys could blow up. Speaking of blowing up,
let's talk about that.
Let's talk about Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Let's talk about my brother.
Yeah.
Wallowing in sorrow.
Yeah, he traded him to me and has not started the running back in any week.
It's ridiculous.
And I have Tyreek Hill. So I think we should talk about that.
He's his own box score.
Yeah. I was probably going to lose that game against my opponent, and then 2 things happened. Mahomes has had an NFL record, 30 receptions or passes completed, and over 300 yards 4 games in a row. Never been done in the NFL. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Think about it. And he makes it look pretty effortless because if you looked at this game, they kind of put them to the side the second half.
Them,
yeah, second half, they didn't even really use them because they were up so far, and it almost backfired. They allowed the Bucs to come back into it. But
I mean, everybody had a good game. I mean, if you started Kelsey, obviously, you were happy. What's that? You got something coming in on the bat phone?
I was trying to do something here.
Oh, okay.
It's a doorbell. You know what that's for? You know what that's for?
No.
It's Father Time, man. It's Father Time, and he is coming for Tom Brady. Never has a guy thrown for 345 yards and looked worse than this guy. I'm just going to say that. Listen, it gets dark. I'm saying it all year. I'm following the game on my phone. I'm out at Disney, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was doing this week, too.
Sunsets, interception. Sunset. I mean, Father Time wins. I don't know, man. Tom Brady, do you feel good that going into the playoffs, if they make it, 7-5, lost 2 games in a row, do you feel good going into playoffs with Brady
No.
as your quarterback?
No, and it's not because I don't, all jokes aside, it's just you just don't know who you're going to get.
Well, this is what you do know. You know that last year, for the entire year, he had 9 interceptions. Yeah. And this year, he's already at 11 with, 4 games to go? 5 games to go? 5 games to go. Something's not right, and I don't think it's Bruce Arians. I'm just going to say that.
Well, I think part of it, I don't know if we spoke about this, but Tom Brady's game for the longest time has been the short, quick passing game.
Yep.
And that's not what Arians does.
No, I mean, he's been going long more than he ever has.
That's what Arians is, a down-the-field guy.
Yeah.
When he had Carson Palmer,
yeah,
even when Palmer got hurt and he had his backups and they were still he's not going to change the way he plays the game, calls the game.
This is how he and the Tampa Bay is 7-5, so you can't say it's been a failure. But the last time Brady threw this much downfield was when he had Randy Moss.
Yeah,
and that was
about the only time
12 years ago. I mean, think about that.
I remember.
Yeah,
they lost the Super Bowl.
So
Gronkowski had a strong game though.
Yeah, this was a week for tight ends.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin. We've talked about this. We talked up Antonio Brown, and then he got 3 targets, 2 receptions. We talked down Chris Godwin, and he got 9. Mike Evans got 9, but only caught 3. I am afraid of this receiving.
It's just you don't know who's going to do what week to week. I mean, if you have Mike Evans, you're going to start him. I guess if you have Chris Godwin after this week, you're going to start him.
This is what I would do. I would take Chris Godwin and another player and try to package it for a true number 1 receiver.
Yes.
You might be able to find a sucker this week.
Yep.
And you do it because, you go off his good. He looked really good. But going forward, I don't know. And really, there's a fourth because Rob is a force to be reckoned with, and it's who Brady feels comfortable with. So I don't have any faith starting Gronk, Godwin, Evans, or
Brown. We're not saying these guys are bad players either.
They're great.
We're just
they're
saying
great players. Great players.
It's just so many mouths to feed, which was my concern when they signed Brown. How are you gonna know who? It's not just who you have; it's knowing when to start them.
Well, and what matchups work, and if you look at 2 teams, right? 2 teams side by side, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce had 23 receptions. They had more targets, 23 targets, than everybody else combined by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Not so with Gronkowski got 7. Godwin got 9. Evans got 9. It's too muddy.
Bray got 6 too.
Yeah. Running backs, what do you think?
Ronald Jones had a bounce back game, and same deal here.
Yeah.
Just don't know when he's going to show up.
Yeah. And I don't even know why you're messing with Fournette right now.
No, Fournette is bad.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to that guy.
You know what? in college. He kept getting hurt, didn't play. He doesn't like. I don't think he's a guy that likes contact.
Yeah, maybe he's a big guy too. It's strange. Yeah. And Edwards-Helaire, who I talked up last week, I just don't know. Only 11 carries.
Yeah, who is he? Now they didn't have to run.
No.
So that was part of it, but going forward, if you've got Mahomes, if you got Hill, you got Kelsey, you feel really good about yourself. I think Brady, even though we downed him a lot, he's a quarterback. If you're trying to choose between Josh Allen against the Steelers or Brady's,
play Brady.
You're probably going to, be a little bit afraid, but you're going to start Brady. So,
all right, we go to Bears-Packers here.
Ooh, it's a Bears-Packers.
And Aaron Rodgers looked like A-Rod, man.
Yeah.
This guy, they're my sleeper team to go to the Super Bowl and win.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
I do too.
And I don't think it's even close. I looked at that game, and, stats-wise, he had 4 touchdowns, only 200 yards. I've never seen a more efficient dismantling. And it's not a bet. This was a great defense. Chicago has a great defense. And he dismantled them.
They're missing a few guys. I think their most important player, Akeem Hicks. But, they just handle business. And, I do agree with you. I like, I like Mahomes a lot.
Yeah.
But I think just the level that they're playing, I think Aaron Rodgers is right now a solid level above where Mahomes is playing. And Mahomes is playing out of his mind, too.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's hard because, when you're talking about those two, you're just splitting hairs. If you got either one, you're super excited about it. But Aaron Rodgers, 33 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions this year. It's so efficient, And he has proved he's in the tough part of his schedule.
Yeah.
When everybody said he'd come back to the field, he wouldn't be that good. If I were starting if the Browns could get Aaron Rodgers, we could maybe win the Super Bowl.
He's got something to prove.
Yeah.
After they went out and drafted that quarterback,
Jordan
Love, and he's it's a revenge tour, man.
Yeah.
And got the San Francisco 49ers, who seems to be his Achilles heel in the way. I like them going into the playoffs. I think they're going to...
How old is he?
Rodgers, I think he's 35.
Yeah, 35, 36.
Yeah, I think they're going to be pedaled to the floor for the rest of the season. So your playoffs, I think, you're good with him and Aaron Jones, and they ran the ball well on this defense.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, 17 carries. Jamal Williams, 17 carries.
The thing I like about the running backs for the Packers is it's the right running backs for the way that they play. They're pretty good running, but they're great receiving backs.
Yeah.
I think they buy Aaron Rodgers the time that he needs. So I don't know, man. The Green Bay Packers look pretty good.
Tanyan looked good.
I think we said pick him up. I actually picked him up in one of my leagues, and he did it right for me. Mm-hmm. And what I love about them is the next 3 games, they've got the Eagles, the Lions, and the Panthers.
That's beautiful.
And none of those defenses scare me.
No.
So if you can somehow get Aaron Rodgers, get him.
Yeah, and then our guy we talked about, Scanting Valdez.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Oh, my God. And then let's not forget about Allen Robinson, who had a pretty great game, 8 for 74 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and actually, Trubisky had a pretty good game. Yeah, I mean, 2 interceptions, but this is a Trubisky that you want to believe in, right?
I mean, you could start him here. I mean,
What do you think about David Montgomery? Popped up his head, reminded people he was a good running back.
Yeah, is he?
Only 11 touch. Yeah, I think he's a good running back behind a terrible line.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he's a marginal running back.
I don't know, man. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 40 yards on his receptions. 11 touches, 103 yards, and no touchdowns. No, he did have a touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown. I think he is a true dual threat running back. He can catch and run.
He's a flex play, a running back 3
fair.
for me.
That's fair.
But, because without that long run, when you can't take it away, but you're not going to expect him to break off a 60-yard run every week.
No, but if you watch, I don't know if you watch that game.
I watched bits and pieces.
The 61-yard run, I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, I seen it.
It was a lot of him. It was a lot of him. Like Chubb. Chubb, my coach in high school used to say,
"Oh boy,
yeah, when I was
4
playing,
touchdowns, Pokai."
When I was running,
Do you Al Bundy?
No, I'm not. He used to say, "This play is designed to get you 4 yards as a running back. So if you get 4 yards, you're a lousy running back because that's what this play is designed to get." Chubb and Montgomery in that game, they got the extra yardage.
Yeah, I just haven't seen enough with Montgomery.
All right, let's go to the last game, Seahawks, Eagles.
Go Seahawks.
The Eagles have played everybody really tough. Carson Wentz, he didn't look good again. 4.5 yard average. That was it. 2 touchdowns with an interception. Yeah. They pulled in Jalen Hurts, and supposedly he's starting to get first-team reps in practice.
I think he's going to probably start this week.
Yeah, so what I want is you got the Cowboys, backup.
Yeah.
Redskins, backup. Giants, backup. I want the full cycle, man. I want Hurts to start so we can have the NFC least, and everybody have a backup quarterback. So
I think Jalen Hurts will be an upgrade at this point.
I'm hoping.
Wentz is missing, wide open receivers. I'm not saying with throws, he's just not seeing them.
Yeah, he doesn't look good.
The rumor mills, what I'm reading, is that they're frustrated with him.
Yeah,
there's plays that are being left on the field. And I said give Travis Fulgham one more chance here,
and we gave it to him.
And what's crazy, that Hail Mary at the end of the game, he had it in his hands and dropped it. And he dropped a few passes this game.
Yeah, he didn't look as good, but I think you can tell everything you need to know about this game from this. Wentz was the leading rusher, and his 2 leading receivers were both tight ends. He had 16 targets to his tight ends. The next leading receiver was a running back. He's in disarray. He's in trouble.
And Dallas Goedert, man, we talked about him. Wow,
great game. Yeah,
he's the guy. And even if Ertz comes back, like you said, I think Ertz,
he's on the IR, so we know he's out for at least another 1 or 2 games. But going forward, I think Hurts is the pass.
I'm disappointed in Sanders. He wasn't great on the ground. He caught a few. How many? 2 balls. He dropped at least 2 that I seen. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about this offense.
Yeah, I don't think much of it. Seattle, quiet game for Russell Wilson, but Chris Carson had a good game.
Yeah.
Good return week. As we always say, Lockett and DK seem to switch off weeks.
Yeah.
It was Lockett's turn.
Yeah. DK, man.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it was DK's turn, 177 yards.
13. What? Here's what bothers me a little bit about the Lockett thing. It is switched on and off, but I feel like it's much more DK on.
Yeah.
Than Lockett on.
I think it's.
And he only got 4. I mean, they threw the ball. Let me see how many attempts he had.
He had 31.
31 attempts, and Lockett got 4 of them.
I think it's just, you talked about Arians. The offense style in Seattle is push it downfield, which doesn't leave Lockett. Like Lockett's more of that underneath.
He used to be that guy.
And I think he's still, honestly, he hasn't lost a step. It's just that they use him more in the slot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's kind of what inhibits him a little bit.
You might be right.
All right, last game we'll just briefly mention is the Steelers versus Ravens. There's not a chance in hell that they're not going to play this game.
No, they're playing.
They have to play it because it's just got too many implications for playoffs. My God, Mark Andrews on the COVID list, Lamar Jackson's on the COVID list, J.K. Dobbins on the COVID list, Connors for the Steelers COVID list. It's going to be a shit show. If I were the Steelers, I would remove all their wide receivers and Roethlisberger, give them the week off, and send them somewhere else away from this diseased team because you don't want to be impacted going forward. But they are going to play Wednesday night, they're saying now.
No, Wednesday at 3:40.
So it's going to count for this past week's stats.
It's going to count for this past week. Yeah. I mean, if your league should already have something in set in for the situation already. And we're rounding up on an hour and 5 minutes here.
You know, we have good content, and you guys should listen to every damn word we say.
Yeah.
No, that's not true, but we
don't even have time to, shoot the crap a little bit, but
yeah, we shoot the crap during the whole, So, all right. So, as always, we're gonna probably end this a little bit, and we're gonna talk to you about, America's team a little bit. The Cleveland Browns.
No.
I'm going to rub the L.
Guys, remember to follow us and put in those questions and suggestions for our punishment for our picks.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll catch you on.
You can find us anywhere, right? The Ultimate Fantasy Locker Room. Our numbers are growing, and we really appreciate you guys. A lot of questions, a lot of interaction, and we do our absolute best to answer every single question. Even at freaking 2 a.m. I don't know what you people are doing, what kind of life you lead, but I'm getting old, so
me too.
But we'll do our best, man.
All right, man. Have a good week, guys. See you Friday.
It's like we holding on to what he's hating. Lacking luster from the father, cause there's no relation. I'm told to tell you about a word from God, if not mistaken. That's why his name is always dropped in every conversation.